UFC Fight Night, Prates versus Garry is coming up this Saturday, and I'm going to be going through the entire event, starting with the early prelims. We're going to end with the main event, giving my prediction and breakdown of who I think is going to win the fight. And we're going to start with the early prelim opener of Chelsea Chandler versus Jocelyn Edwards. Now, Chelsea's Chandler, stand-up fighter. Last fight, she got outclassed on the feet. She took a lot of shots to the head and legs, simply did not have the skills to keep her opponent off her or allow her to hit her opponent. She can be pretty strong in the clinch as long as her opponent lets her get in there, but she doesn't really seem to have a lot of power. Edwards, very dynamic striker. She's got solid kicks. She's got stiff punches. Seems to have pretty decent takedown defense and can even have the threat of the takedown herself. If Chandler hasn't improved, I think Edwards is going to get the better of her on the feet, and she's going to lose. Timmy Kwamba versus Roberto Romero. Now, Timmy Kwamba, he's a very skilled counter striker, very quick on his feet. He dashes in with a stiff 1-2, keeps his opponent off of him, and he's totally fine with fighting off the back foot. Roberto Romero, a bit stockier, a bit slower, kind of plods forward, and I think that's really going to lend itself towards Timmy Kwamba's skill set unless he lets himself get bullied as the fight goes on. But I just think he might be too quick for Roberto Romero, so I'm going to lean towards a Timmy Kwamba decision or maybe even a third round finish. That's these two gentlemen right here. Sorry, not used to the new format. Both orthodox, 5'9", 5'8", 145, 155, so interesting fight. Moving up the card, we've got Jacqueline Amarim versus Poliana Viana. Now, Amarim, very aggressive with her takedowns. She's a good jiu-jitsu player. Her last fight was a little controversial because she seemed to have hooked her fingers in her opponent's gloves to get the sub. Viana seems to be a jiu-jitsu player, but has had some unfortunate losses against other jiu-jitsu artists. Amarim seems to be aggressive and skilled enough, I think, to get the win by submission. Moving up the card, we've got Malcolm Wellmaker versus Cameron Simon. I like Simon. Very gifted fighter. He's got good combos. He does have a decent chin. His last fight, unfortunately, came up short when... who did he fight last? Hang on a minute. 1 second. Who did he fight? I know it's a popular name. What am I missing? Peyton Talbot. My goodness. When he fought Peyton Talbot, came up short. Talbot looked really good that night, so unfortunate for him. He's got, like I said, very gritty, good combos, decent chin. Ground game is pretty decent, and he does know how to scramble when he's hurt. He's got some power at least. Wellmaker is making his debut after his fight in the Contender Series. That seems like a pretty big step up in my opinion. He's got slick head movement, but he does get caught sometimes, and I think Cameron Simon might have the experience and the grit to get him the win. Moving up the card, we've got Damon Blackshear versus Alan Tangili. Interesting fight. Blackshear, very technical striker, solid striking, and his kicks are really quick and accurate. He's got nice combos when he comes forward. And his flow when he has somebody hurt, really efficient, doesn't get overexcited, doesn't smother his work. He does get a little excited when he comes to the ground game, though, and that could cause some mistakes, but he's knowledgeable enough to keep from losing an advantageous position. He's not going to get reversed on the ground. Alan Tangili, patient, stalking, striking wrestler, solid stand-up defense. He can avoid kicks very well. He's got a good distance management. Striker, he punches with his opponents, and it allows him to land some heavy shots. He relies on his chin. Very patient when he comes forward, and then he just kind of waits for his opponent to make a mistake, if that's like an overshooting or they come off balance. Wrestling, very solid. I don't like that he's content to just lay in guard and kind of land the occasional ground and pound shot instead of advancing his position. And I just think that the range of Blackshear is going to be too much for Alan Tangili to handle. So I'm going to give it to Blackshear, and I think I'm going to lean towards just a decision. Yeah, I'm going to go with decision for Blackshear. Moving up with the card, we've got Chris Gutierrez versus John Castaneda. Gutierrez, very technical striker, decent ground defense, footwork really nice. He kind of glides around the cage, which was really impressive, at least in the beginning of the fight. He manages his distance very well. He likes to land strikes and kicks almost at will. His style does take to like a lot of energy, I think, and as the fight goes on, he focuses more on landing counters rather than being the aggressor. And he only really pushes forward if he notices that like a shot has like stunned an opponent temporarily, and that's when you kind of see him move forward as the fight goes on. In the early stages of the fight, he's pretty aggressive. Castaneda, primarily a striker, he's got decent combos and power. His last fight, and I don't know if this is in all of his fights, but he starts off with some real nervous energy. He settles in as the fight goes on. He's pretty effective at stalling against the cage, but his takedowns do need a bit of work if that is indeed what he's trying to do. I can see him having success if he can corner Gutierrez, but I think Gutierrez is a little bit too slick for him and is probably going to stop him either late second, middle of the third round. Moving up the card, Evan Elder versus Ahmad Hassanzada. So Hassanzada, wrestler-dominant fighter, decent takedowns, good ground control. His striking defense is a bit sloppy, and I think he leaves himself open to be countered in the way that he throws his shots. Elder, striker with some mean counters and really good, like a solid wrestling defense. Seems to have a pretty good like a ground game, and he knows how to weather a storm if he's hurt. I think Elder is skilled enough to deal with Hassanzada's range, and unless he's seriously improved, I'm expecting Hassanzada to get stopped in the second, if not the first. So we'll see how that ends up. Up the card, and this is the final fight of the prelims, the feature fight. This is going to be Matt Schnell versus Jimmy Flick. Now, Matt Schnell, aggressive come-forward fighter. He likes to trade in the pocket, nice combos, and is capable of holding his own in the fire. His hand and kick speed is very fast, but he does seem to fade a bit as the fight goes on. Flick seems to have good wrestling abilities, but his striking defense is very suspect, in my opinion. I can see him having success if he manages to get Schnell to the ground, but I just think that Schnell is going to be too quick for him, at least in the early half of the fight. And honestly, I think I'm going to lean towards a Matt Schnell finish. Up the card, first fight of the main card. Ikram Aliskerov versus Andre Muniz. Aliskerov, well-rounded fighter, great striker, wrestler, decent pop in his shots. I think he just had too big of a step up in his last fight. I mean, to go from where he's at to fighting Robert Whittaker is a huge jump in competition. But I'm hoping that motivates him to show him where he needs to be at the top of the game. Muniz, primarily a wrestler, and I don't think he's on the level of Aliskerov at all. So I'm seeing this by an Ikram Aliskerov finish or a sub, personally. Up the card, Randy Brown versus Nicholas Dalby. Now, Randy Brown, rangy striker. He uses his reach really well to land shots and combos. He gets a little bit sloppy, and he does allow himself to be countered. His takedown offense could use some work, but he's got a really good scramble, and he's able to reverse positions when he's down, when he's taken down, or at the very least get out of bad positions. Dalby, durable come-forward striker. He has a lot of success in the clinch if you allow him to get in there. His takedown defense and ability to get back up are really impressive, and his physicality should allow him to stay in the fight if Brown allows him to reach him. I'm going to lean towards a Brown win by decision just because I think he can utilize his reach a lot better. Let's see here. What's their reach? So look at that. 78 inches, 74 and a half. So that's a 3.5 reach, or 3.5 inch reach advantage for Randy Brown. And I just think with the way that Nicholas Dalby fights, I think he's going to have the speed and the ability to keep Nicholas Dalby away from him. So I'm going to lean towards Randy Brown win by decision. Up the card, Michel Pereira versus Abos Magomedov. Now, these are the cardio kings of the middleweight division. Pereira, aggressive striker. He rains down power shots, hoping to break his opponent early in the round. He has really good finishing instincts, and he's a very, very exciting fighter when he's in the groove. Last fight had him come up short after seemingly gassing in the first round and then getting stopped in the fifth. Very strange fight after seeing the way he performed in earlier fights. I guess we'll see in this fight if it was a fraud check or if he just had an off night. You know what I mean? Magomedov, a wrestler with decent strikes and takedowns, very patient on the feet, and he doesn't really move in unless he has to. He does get hit with aggressive fighters, and if he's not careful, I think Michelle has the power to put him out. And I'm going to lean towards Michelle Pereira finish. So that's how I think that fight's going to go. But honestly, one of the more exciting fights on the card. Really looking forward to see how it plays out. Next up, we've got Giga Chikadze versus David Onama. Now, Giga, very dynamic striker. His jabs and kicks are clean. He's got a real talent for knowing when to time his knees. Only comes up short against the top guys of the division. And he is getting a bit old, especially for the lighter weight class. The featherweight is a tough weight class to be old in. Or not old, but at least over 36. Or 35, I mean. So, even fighting off the back foot, does really well. Starts to fade if his opponents start pushing the pace and gaining momentum. Onama, dynamic striker, some decent ground game defense, got good scrambles. He gets a bit complacent and allows his opponents to land on him, and it sometimes can hurt him. He can turn up the pace when he needs to, but sometimes seems content to kind of coast. I think Chikadze has the skills to keep him from working on his game plan, and I'm going to lean towards a Chikadze decision. I just think that he's the more experienced fighter, and he knows his skill set better, and I think Onama is going to struggle with just the skill level of Chikadze, personally. Up the card, Anthony Smith versus Zhang Mingyang. Anthony Smith, he's an older fighter in the division, on a bit of a skid. He's like a win one, lose two kind of guy. He's got okay stand-up, but his signature move is curling up onto a ball after he's facing a little bit of pressure and then getting beat up. Mingyang Zhang, aggressive guy, comes forward, relies on his chin to land his shots and trade on the inside. I just think that Zhang is going to come forward and finish him personally. I just think that Smith doesn't have it. Zhang is motivated, young, aggressive. I'm going to lean towards Zhang finish for this one. And then finally, the main event, Ian Garry versus Carlos Prates. So Ian Garry, quick striker. His cans and his kicks are both very, very clean, very fast. Doesn't have like the craziest KO power, but he can land consistently with his jabs, with his counters, with his kicks. His kicks, very dangerous. And he even has a very good wrestling skill set that he's been showing us as of late, both against Shavkat Rakhmonov and Michael Venom Page. Very impressive to watch him work and show that level of his game. Carlos Prates, hard-hitting, stalks forward. He's got a huge reach, which I did not realize is insane. His reach is longer than Gary's, even though he's 2 inches shorter than him, allegedly. You never know with UFC height things. He's a bit weak in the clinch. He allows himself to be controlled in the clinch. And I think he's a little bit slow on the feet, sometimes kind of plodding forward. And this is a very big jump in competition for him. I think Garry personally has the skills to keep Prates at range and to kind of pick him apart if Prates, can't figure out how to get on the inside. And so I think, and even his ground game, I think is good enough to avoid getting finished on the ground by Prates if he even gets hurt or if he wants to try to take him down. So I'm going to lean towards a Garry decision. And of course, I feel like when I first started watching Garry before he started getting on the vegan diet, he was like strong. He looked strong personally. And so we'll just have to see how good he looks in there come the fight night. But I'm going to lean towards a Garry finish. But anyways, like, subscribe. Let me know what you think of the video. Let me know what you think of the comments. And I'd love to hear your opinions. So until then, see ya.